Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me again today. And you're just also going to join me while I do my chores. So if you hear the washing machine or the dryer, just know that your girl is getting the job done. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about just being quiet. Close your mouth. Stop thinking. And growing up as the youngest daughter, just the youngest and very all over the place, very into things, excited about things, always talking, always doing something, jumping here and jumping there. There were a lot of times that I would simply hear from my parents, hey, 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 just be quiet, just be still. And they were right. That was something that I had to unlearn, not as an adult or early adult, because even though they would say, hey, calm down, would sit still for a little bit, but not for long. Even throughout school, one of the things that they used to do, remember how old I am. So back in my time, back when I was younger, much younger, I'd say late 70s, late 70s. We did not get spankings in school. We were definitely disciplined. And one of the disciplinary actions that one of my teachers would take was I'd have to do squats. Yeah, I used to call them knee bends, but squats. And during class, we'd say, if you all can't be quiet, I'm giving you warnings. The next one, if you keep speaking and I've talked to you already, then you're going to come up here and you're going to have to do squats. And it was always a certain amount of time. It was not unreasonable, I'm quite sure. It only became unreasonable for me because I would be quiet, right? I just talking and I would sit there, and the next thing you know, a thought would cross my head and my mouth was open and I blah, 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 blah. So, of course, I had to do my squats. Now, I had so much going on with me running my mouth that I remember I was doing squats for a long time, all the time. My thighs would be burning, but I didn't because I'm like, shoot, I'm gonna say what I want to say. I told y'all I was something, and it got to the point where she just was like, listen, you're just gonna have to stop. My parents would have to really, really work on me with that, and somehow or the other, I lived past all those squats, and to be honest, got great legs from all of that workout. But I would not recommend it, right? Because the knees are definitely popping. Anyway, I learned a little bit. I cannot say I learned a lot. I learned a little bit during the time period about self control, managing myself, not talking all the time. But it took more seasons and more life lessons and more growth before I really started to get fully grasp it. Of course, throughout college and things like that, I wasn't constantly talking, but I did have a habit of saying things I really didn't need to say. I would speak my mind, always very strong willed and, you know, determined and, willing to try things. Always, I just had this belief that God is with me and I can do anything that God says that I can do, which is true, but says He didn't say do it right now. And certainly you don't need to say it. But I didn't learn that. In fact, I learned it eventually, but I didn't learn it all at once. So, in fact, in my mid 20s, when I met this guy on a blind date, we go to dinner and he's talking, and I was thinking something. It was not nice, but I said it in my mouth. And this man, we had just gotten our meal delivered to the table. The waitress had just bought everything was fine except for my mouth. And he said, check, please. I think we're clearly going to need boxes because, yeah, we're not doing this. I was so shocked, but it was what I needed. And so I learned, you can't always speak your opinion or make an assessment about someone or what they think or anything like that because a lot of these things are inside thoughts and nobody asked me anyway. Perfect. We, drove home and he started asking me more questions because, like I said, it was a blind date and realized we had a lot of things in common. And one of the things he had to reckon with was I'm a very strong woman. And subsequently married the dude. I mean, he's awesome and wonderful. And just as a side note, he was exactly what my dad said I should look for. Don't say yes to anyone, he would tell me. Don't say yes to anyone unless you know, because the man you're going to need is a man who's man enough to be the man in your life and be man enough to allow you to become the woman that God has called you to be. And I definitely got that because, I definitely learned, and those were my beginning steps, is you don't have to say everything. Now, that's just how life is, right? So just fast forward a few more years, and I feel like God is constantly, as the word says, He perfects those things concerning you. He has definitely shown me, yeah, you got that. But sis, you still talk about, or you still say, or you still might want to. And so, needless to say, it's been a growing thing for me, and it's been a blessing. So, what I'm what I'm talking about today really goes with not just the audible, because remember I said your inside voice, keep some things to yourself. Noticed, and I did this a lot when my children were young. I'm constantly running ideas through my head. I'm constantly thinking about something. I'm constantly with my to-do list. I'm constantly checking, okay, did I do this? Did I do that? Okay. Because I do run a lot of different things at one time. That's just my nature, type A personality. Love it. Still type A. And the Lord recently has been saying to me, calm down and stop talking. Just stop. And in that stop talking, I started to hear. And it's like I noticed my thoughts before I allowed myself to kind of go with the thought. I noticed that there were times where I was overthinking things. Like I knew what I wanted to do, I knew what my plans were, but then I'd start thinking, well, what is this and what is that? It'll be anything from cooking dinner to my next project or, just different things. And I realized in all that self talk, I was missing some direction. Now, the word says that it's what to say, it's the Lord in all things acknowledge God and let him, guide your way. That man has plenty of plans, but it's the Lord that orders our steps. And I felt, and God said to me, I'm ordering your steps, but you're not hearing me. You're not seeing it. There are things that I'm telling you that as I walk with you day to day, and you're not getting it. Now, has that happened to you? I mean, something happens, and in retrospect, oh man, I knew that was going to happen. Now, the world calls it deja vu, but we know Holy Spirit is with us, and we know His angels guide us, His word guides us. So we know it's not a deja vu, right? We know it's God. For instance, I just turned 52 in July. Yay! And I'm going to tell you the whole, I'm going to tell you the whole thing so you can kind of laugh with me and still give God the glory. So I was pretty tired that day. I was just tired. I had been working on some projects as always. And I was resting, and my husband had come in from work, and we had one more thing we wanted to do, which was to hang the lights, the string lights on our patio. Patio? Yeah, our patio under the deck. and he was going to connect them to the string lights that were on the deck above, and we were going to run them down under the screen porch. It's beautiful plan. We got everything we need, but we had been spending a couple days saying, "Oh, not today, not today, not today." And our sister, well, my sister, his sister, my sister-in-law, what we just call her sis, was coming to visit, and we just wanted her to have a nice, relaxing time so that if she went out on the patio, whatever time in the evening, she'd still have light and, lounge around and just fully enjoy her time here with us. So we decided on that day, hey, let's go ahead and get this done. So we decide, okay, this will be great. Actually, my timing is that's not right. Um, we were supposed to do it before she came, but we were too busy preparing, and so we just made everything else very lovely. We put little lanterns out, but for the lights, back to where I am. Um, that day we said, okay, we just really need to get this done, and it had rained earlier that day, and so it seemed like, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. So he says, let's go. He goes and gets the supplies. Our sons are pitching in to help, and I step outside, go all the way, go downstairs, step out the back, and off the patio sounds, on the patio it's great, but I'm wearing socks. Step in the grass is wet. I wasn't thinking. Here are some inside thoughts, or here are some guiding steps that I didn't listen to. One was, you need to turn around and go get your shoes on. The other one was, it's getting slippery. It's too slippery. You shouldn't do this. Now, meanwhile, I'm not paying it any attention because in my mind, I'm going, okay, we got to hurry and get this done. I wish we had gotten this done earlier. We need to just, once this is done, everything will be done. And I'm glad, I wonder where the boys are. Are they getting the ladder? Hopefully he's got the hammer. And meanwhile, I'm still walking up the stairs and I hear this. I recognize this small little voice. It's slippery. Oh, look how slippery these stairs are. You know what? We better go back and get, the flip flops, go get something, that we can step on. I get to the top, and one son is wearing no shoes, and the other one is wearing flip flops. And I'm like, both of them seem to have more sense than I do in this situation, but it'll be fine. I dismiss it. I do whatever we're doing on the deck, and my husband hands me the rest of the lights, and I proceed to walk downstairs, and something happens. I'm going to focus on one part of this story, but I'm sure I'll pick up the rest to talk about something else later. But this part of the story was, I shouldn't laugh. It's 17 steps, wooden steps outside. The first step, I feel myself falling. I literally feel my foot slip out underneath my right foot. I start falling. And because I was leaning to walk out, even though I slipped, I was like about to fall forward. Now, if you all don't know from my bio, I'm also a black belt in Taekwondo. And back in the day, during all those classes with Master Ribeiro, and everyone was teaching us about how to fall, I was being disgruntled because, because I'm like, I'm too old to be falling out on the floor. I'm not doing this. It's too much. But I did it because they were giving me the look like, you gonna do it. So I did it. I say that to say, even though I was falling forward, I remembered instinctively, I remembered how to bend my knees, throw my arms back to fall back. And that's what happened. Instead of, even though the momentum was pushing me forward, I remembered how to get into the perfect little crouch stance and fall back. So I slid all the way down those stairs, those wooden stairs on my backside. I was in so much pain. I got up. I'm sure my body was still trying to catch up with the reality of what was happening because in a few moments after I got up and said, no, 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 I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, and handed my husband the lights because oddly I didn't drop the lights, my whole backside started screaming. And then the choir started in my backside and said, "What is wrong with you? Why are we hurting?" My elbows were hurting, my back was hurting, my bum was hurt. It was a mess. All that to say, I had to really laugh at myself, and that's just my personality, right? Because why get dramatic and be all upset about something? Thank God I didn't die the day before my birthday. Let's keep it real. And I said, man, if I wasn't so busy running these thoughts in my head, I would have gone back inside and put on my flip flops. I mean, they're right there. I have shoes at all, almost all the exits because I don't like to wear shoes in the house. And I have a bad habit of also not wearing the shoes outside. Okay, hold on just a minute. I need to take my vitamins. I'm sorry, but hey, you'll get the real life me. And so I realized then what the Lord had been really working with me on since then. And at the time of this recording, we're at the end of September, that I need to quiet myself and listen. Listen so that I don't have missteps, so that I'm not making these same mistakes. And that's what I'm sharing with you. Okay, friend, take some time and quiet yourself. Now, you're not going to be totally, please don't go through the whole week. Empty your head. No thoughts, no thoughts, no thoughts. That's not what I'm saying. But go back to the word which says that we ought to think on things that are good, praiseworthy, of good report. If it's unnecessary, retrain your mind so that you're not dwelling on things that are unnecessary. As my mentor, Miss Brenda, always says, it's a distraction. And she has always reminded me, I love her. She has always reminded me that you can't be so busy doing and running and all over the place that you can't hear God. And it's applicable here too, because my my mind was so filled with all these different thoughts and all of this and all of those ideas, and they weren't necessary for what we were doing right then and there. When I quiet and train myself to quiet myself, it also goes with the word that goes with my other mentor, my Aunt Sarah. Pull down vain imagination. Pull down all these, I call them raggedy thoughts. Because when I think about it, sometimes the things you're thinking about, you're making a bigger deal than what's necessary. You're making it something that doesn't require so much of your attention. For instance, if you go somewhere and you hang out with your friends, maybe for lunch, on your lunch break at work, and y'all are all talking, and let's say someone talks about, how some people do, let's say someone brings up something, and before you know it, you're joining the conversation, and maybe you said a little bit more than what you really intended to say. Maybe it was negative. Someone talked about someone's outfit, or someone they, said they thought was obnoxious about, at the meeting, and you joined in or chuckled, or maybe you didn't speak up, whatever it is, right? But being a good, kind person that you are, you go through it in your head and you start replaying it and replaying it and replaying it. But then you have to remember all that time being distracted with those thoughts. You're not present. You're still moving throughout your day. God is still speaking. His angels are still with you. He has given his angels charge of you, as according to Psalm 91, and you're not aware of it because you're not even present in that moment. And then when things happen, unfortunately, depending on where you are in your walk, I'm going to say it. You say, God didn't, well, how did this happen? God didn't prepare. Yeah, he did. He told you. Tried to tell you. Was talking. You won't listen. Sorry. Boo boo. But God still love you. Sometimes if we quiet ourselves, we'll get the answers, right? Because we're like, oh, that's right. You know you've done this. You're driving home, and studies have indicated that people do things by rote, by habit, muscle memory. They drive home and they're not fully engaged in what's going on around them. Like when we first started driving, well, we paid attention to everything. We saw it all, the white lines, the yellow lines, the people driving, the horn blowing, and how fast this person seemed to be going. How fast am I going? Both hands on the wheel, looking both ways. But as we become more accustomed to driving, we don't do all that. Some of us are putting on lipstick. Some of us are, unfortunately, I hope no one is checking their phone. No one does that. Please don't. Or any of these distractions that I'm saying. Or reaching in the bag, getting the pacifier for the kid, but still managing the road. I mean, there's a lot. That's when once we feel comfortable, we feel like we're in control, we're not giving it 100%. And unfortunately, we've seen through statistics that's, you get more accidents. Generally, it rises the closer you get to home because you get even more confident that you know what you're doing when, yeah, not all the way because you're not focused. And I feel like that's how it is with our walk with Christ. We get so caught up and so comfortable and consumed with our life that we feel like we know what's going on. It's same day as every day. Well, pinky in the brain. I know I'm aging myself, but he said, what are we going to do today? What are we going to do today, boss? Same thing we do every day. Try to take over the world. And I feel like sometimes, even as Christians, as beautiful, wonderful men and women of God, we think we can take over the world, our world. We think we can control everything. We think we can manage everything. So we overthink things. We try to analyze and look at how things should have gone, would have gone, should have, would have, could have. And we miss of what God is saying. So, you know, let's just try. And you can comment back, let me know. Let's just try to look at it. Are you one of those people that overthink things or thinking about stuff so much that you stress yourself out, you can't sleep, you're waking up with it? But God is a God of peace. He's promised us peace. He said we can rest and we need to take that. So sometimes think about it. Do you need to quiet down? Do you need to stop talking in your head, thinking things through, overanalyze it? And as a side note, which is very important, so put a pin in it. I'm a believer in the Word of God, and I'm also a believer that God has called each one into His kingdom, and each one to do what He needs us to do according to His will for the uplifting of the kingdom. So, what am I saying? Each one has been given certain gifts and talents and abilities, and there are some, you know them. And if you don't, I'm sure you can find those resources. But some have been called to help the kingdom of God in our mental health issues. So if you have a mental health and it's thoughts that you can't seem to get rid of, you can't manage, talk to your doctor, get a referral, pray, keep praying, and follow up with your health with your physicians and let them get a referral for you. So I'm saying basically there are some things you can do in yourself with self-discipline, and there are some things that your self-discipline and your good ideas and good plans are going to need some help. And that's good too, because God is faithful. We know God heals in whichever way God brings that. Okay. So let me know your thoughts. And I'm looking forward to hearing back from you. I'm going to get back to my chores. Have a blessed day.